We're having some cheese bun toasted with cream of mushroom soup, and it was all given to us from the Salvation Army, except for the tomatoes.
The
which
tomatoes are
James
from
just harvested at
Pauline
his house.
planted them, and she's finishing off. I'm having some bad trouble with my back. Well, it's not really bad, but I want to make sure it doesn't get any worse. And we'll see how bad it is. And it's not, it's worrisome.
Yeah. Because when you have a back like James's now, I mean, every little thing, it could be
well, it's
big,
not little, that's for certain, because I'm getting numbness
he has a big
down into my feet and a little bit of my fingertips.
Yeah.
And numbness on my back, so it's very worrisome. They're worried at the hospital.
I don't get numbness on my back.
And
I just get the toes and the
there's
fingers.
no comparing
No.
my back with your back.
No, because he lost so many inches
5
in
inches.
height.
1 inch for every fracture.
All right. 8.4 ounces today.
And that's just my yard, eh?
That's just your yard.
There might be some in your yard, right?
Yeah, I haven't checked my yard yet. So there you are.
Excellent. That's going to make tomato sandwiches. And Pauline, I don't think you mentioned the strawberries. Right?
I didn't mention the strawberries, but they were given to us too.
There we go.
By the Salvation Army. But I was going to say that we were both listening to, on the way to his house, on the way back in the car.
Holy
smokes.
smokes.
We were listening to the radio, and we were bothered by two different things. Like, he was bothered by the story on the way there more. I was bothered by the story on the way back. Because it's advertising. They're advertising for businesses for free, and they make
our money.
They make
it's not free for us.
You know, they're talking about jingles and stuff like that, and it's like, oh my gosh, who cares? You know, like, we're
that
in COVID
really
and
got my goat, maybe worse than the other one.
Okay, so yeah, it did with me. And the thing is I was recently thinking of it when I picked up I've been picking up things that aren't very healthy for us to eat, along with the healthy stuff from the Salvation Army.
Lots of salads.
But things like the soup. So it's a specific brand that my grandma used to make me when I was just a little girl.
That specific brand, and I used to love it too.
Yes. Yeah. And
wasn't the same time, but
no, but it's the only brand I would eat. And my mother would try to feed me different brands, and I wouldn't eat them.
Like Lipton's or whatever.
Whatever brands of cream of mushroom soup. I don't know. I don't even know what other brands there are because I wouldn't eat them. And
we can mention Lipton because it's a counter ad, right? It's not the Lipton's. No. It's not cream. There's just it's. Yeah,
I don't know.
I think they made it. Yeah, maybe not.
Anyway, so I would only eat the specific brand, and I would literally starve myself. At home, I wouldn't eat my mom's cooking. And finally, you know, my grandma was like, just buy her this brand. And still, my mom wouldn't do it right. Somehow she would get it wrong. She was not a good cook. And I didn't even like it when she made it. But you know what? She might not have even bought the right brand. She might have just said that it's exactly the same, and it wasn't. I don't know. But it was never right. And so I would wait until we'd go to Grandma's house so that I would eat. Or I'd wait until Dad was home and I would eat what Dad was eating. So
he was a pretty good cook, wasn't he?
No. Well, once he cooked, but he didn't cook back then on the farm. But he would eat things like he'd get in and he'd open up a can of oysters. And I'd say, well, can I have some? And he was like, sure. And I was like, well, I don't know if I'm allowed, you know. But I was like, of course you're allowed. So I'd have oysters with him. Or nuts. I like to eat nuts. So in the shell around Christmas, I'd crack them open and eat. But, yeah, I was very picky. and it had to be a certain way. And even like when I moved out on my own, this was a common meal for me. Cream of mushroom soup with, well, it was a grilled cheese sandwich back then. And it had to be made a particular way because that's just the way I was. And now in life, my tastes have expanded. But when I was little and when I went on my own, I wasn't very, I don't know, versatile, I guess, with what I like to eat. So, anyway, why I brought this up is I was thinking about how memory scent is memory, and taste is so much scent. That's really, taste is scent. And to almost
aside from
entirely.
texture.
Yeah. And
Things like that.
so you have various businesses that they strive to have their product the same every time. Like right now, if I tell you we're walking into a Tim Hortons restaurant, you can smell Tim Hortons restaurant. You know it smells exactly the same. We're going to order a Tim Hortons double, and you can smell it. You know what it smells like. Everywhere you go,
What's
every
a
Tim
double?
Hortons.
Is that coffee or something?
That's double sugar, double cream.
Okay. Okay.
So if
I'm not a coffee drinker.
no, so he doesn't know,
Yep.
but you know, and I know that
Most
if
people
we
know,
go
yeah.
into a Tim Hortons at any place across Canada, and you get a double, you know what it smells like, you know what it tastes like before you have it. You know right now you're having a double in your mind, and that's the thing. If companies, like James had this particular kind of soup that he liked, and he still likes, and
When I was
had
a
it
kid,
when I
yeah.
was little. And so when they hook you, when companies get you when you're a little kid, you're associating that care that you get from your mother, or in my case from my grandmother, with that product, with that flavor. And when you have that flavor, you think about being cared for every time. And when you're in a position where you feel like you need a little bit of maternal love or whatever, you're going to go for that brand. And
That's kind of like what Campbell's. I mentioned it. Jeez, I'm sorry, but
I wasn't going to.
anyway, mushroom soup. That's the particular type of mushroom soup. I'd never make a spy.
No.
But because it's not even like good spies can yip and yap and never give anything away. But anyway, it reminds me of my mom too, because she knew I hated vegetable soup, any sort of vegetable soup, anything with meat in it, with the exception of chicken noodle soup, and that's where I preferred the competition to the one that I mentioned, because I think the chicken a little less alive somehow or another. I don't know. Anyway, chicken is gruesome, really. Yeah. There are more things that I find more gruesome, but it's all fairly
Well,
conventional.
there's
We were
actually-
hearing about again on CBC about this one woman.
Recently
you
there
were
was-
thinking about that one
I
too,
know,
same time as
totally.
me.
She was talking about, if somebody kills me a rabbit, then they've won my heart. Kind
Yeah,
of
that's
thing.
how
And
her
it's
husband
like,
won
oh
her
my
heart.
gosh,
Yeah,
you know, like
he'd prepared rabbit without asking her. Oh, I prepared rabbit.
like this was like one of their first dates. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly right.
But
And she was going, wow, read my mind and all that sort of stuff. And, wow. Like Pauline said, that it would be over right then and there. Someone who prepared a
he had a
rabbit.
nice little rabbit, you know, like you can't.
Yeah, and like
Can you think of a more gentle creature?
he'd cut it up by himself and all this sort of thing. I don't know if he killed it himself, but yeah.
Anyway,
taking
and
rabbit
chickens.
taking
The way-
chickens out
like
is shameful.
promoting chickens on the radio. They were promoting
They were promoting
hot chicken.
chicken.
So they did like a hot chicken half an hour or something, and it's like, oh my gosh, how can they possibly talk about chicken sandwiches for half an hour? And
Well, I don't think it was half an hour, but that's what
seemed
I
like
was
forever.
aware. It seemed to go on and
And
on and on. But that's
so
with
they're
our
doing
coin.
free advertising on, paid
With
for by
our coin.
public dollars, by the worker, by working Canadians. They're paying for ads for businesses.
And it's
How
weird
is
because
that?
they're proud, I'm sure. We don't do advertising. Yeah, you do. It's just, you don't do it for money. Fact is, you do it, you give it away.
It's awful.
And it's like
Because
free airtime in COVID times.
Yeah.
You know, we keep asking ourselves, like, what are the numbers in Alberta? What are they in Canada? I mean,
Who knows? We don't get
it's
that
important.
information.
Not
We get
enough.
Hot chicken.
Hot chicken.
And so they're talking about how many people like eating chicken and how that's good for chicken farmers or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
like who cares? Like chicken.
They're trying to
farmers.
make it seem like it's an actual that they're not just promoting businesses, which they are anyway, and it's ridiculous.
It's shameful.
It is
worse than ridiculous. Shameful louts.
Yeah.
So, but I kind of changed the topic from
Oh.
the thing that was happening today. We got to
Sorry.
deal with it. No, I
Okay,
changed
you go.
it, right?
Mhm.
But are you finished with what you were talking
I am
about today?
so finished. You
What
talk.
what were they talking about? Because it did get on my nerves. It was about what they were talking about when we were coming back. I've kind of forgotten. What was that again?
It was about jingles.
About jingles. They were saying they're so passé. Yeah, they are. So even back when they weren't passé, it would have been a waste of our time. But now it's an extra waste of our time because it's just something campy now. Oh, look at the funny, or hear the funny stuff that they
And
used
this
to
isn't
listen
the first show that we've
Yeah.
heard about jingles.
No,
They
there was
keep
one
talking
recently.
about it.
There was one recently.
Yeah, and it was a different show.
It was a different show,
Yeah.
I think.
It was.
Jingles, like wow, these flunkies are so aggressively propagandistic, using the Briggs-Meyer things. Absolutely shameful.
You have to
Listen
fly
to
there.
me, I'm so campy and stuff like that. They're like spit house flies. Speaking of flies, now, so it's just stop wasting our time and most importantly our money on trivia. Shameful. Absolutely shameful. Have you no shame, you guys on CBC?
Really,
Wow.
the people that they hire for CBC shouldn't be aggressive propagandists. They have lots of opportunity for jobs on other radio stations.
Exactly right.
They shouldn't be on our public coin.
Or they should get into dinner drama or something like that. Whatever the stupid stuff they can do that aggressive propagandists can do. Boy, that dog always sounds as though it's getting killed in the background.
I know.
You know, the first time I noticed it, I was rushing out in the street to see what, because I thought it got run over in the street or something like that. Poor thing. But poor us having to listen to it.
Well,
anyway. So earlier today when we were going out, and it wasn't like you weren't watering my tomatoes or our tomatoes now.
Well, yours.
For very long. So it's not as though there was a 6-hour interval, and they were doing good taste and important stuff and so on, something edifying. Now, what was it that they were talking about? Oh, one jewel of a program with a real jewel of a guest. It was the same. No, it was a different program. It was a different program. Ordinarily, Q is a pretty good program, but Tom Power's not there. I don't know if he would have done this sort of thing, but stop the tokenism, will you? I mean, it's not tokenism anymore. Every time I turn, and let's get this clear, I've been told I'm, along with lots of other things, despite my appearances, I'm part African North American, or African Canadian, or whatever the go-to term is now. And I'm part on 3 parts of my mother's genealogy, I've been told, am part Indigenous American. But CBC, you have got to represent everybody. Every time I turn on the dial, there's someone indigenous on there or someone of African American extraction. That's not right. That's not right. You're overrepresenting a certain segment of the population. And you might think, oh, we're making up for the opposition. You look in advertisements nowadays. This is private enterprise. And you'll see people of all, it's like a rainbow of colors and stuff like that. Do a rainbow of colors, for Pete's sake. Don't be hammering a couple of segments of the population. Hammer. If you want to do BBC World Service, do that, for Pete's sake.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
don't be doing this. We represent Canada. You're representing maybe 2%, 3% of the population. Over-representing. It's shameful what you're doing. What you're doing is you're alienating the average Canadian. At any rate, jewelry.
It's awful. She was.
I believe she came from Eritrea. Okay, but I'm not sure if we heard it. Is that kind of like what you heard?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Or Ethiopia. Now, or both. I think at one point in time it was part of Ethiopia. So how did she end up here? Well, she spoke very good English. So when did her parents come over here? Well, my suspicion they came over in the 70s when the commies took over Ethiopia and stuff like that. Hey, they were refugees. So, like, she could be in Ethiopia right now. Oh, that's where the head of the WHO comes from, and where they have a famine or two every so occasionally, and where there's a Marxist government, and where they're fighting people in Tigray province and all this sort of stuff. Violence, ignorance, economic despair, trouble with they already had trouble with diseases and stuff like that. One of the poorest countries in the world per capita. There you go. She could be there, but she's all disgruntled because she wasn't validated when she was going through. She quit in grade 9. She quit school in grade 9. I presume that's she quit as soon as you can quit, right? Mm-hmm. Generally, it's before most people get to grade, get into grade 10. Great. So she quit as soon as she could. And she was saying because they weren't taught black history or indigenous history, black American, or whatever, I'm not sure. She kept on talking about the black contribution or whatever it was, whatever the buzz term is, to civilization. She didn't mention any of this stuff. Like, I'm part African American, and I've got to recognize that the contribution to civilization on the part of people from Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, is very, very insubstantial. Is that a problem? It shouldn't be, because part of my ancestry is very little. That's not a good example. Well, let's say Irish. Okay. What's the Irish contribution to history before St. Patrick, to civilization? Zippo? I don't define myself in terms of where I came from. Look, holy smokes, I'm part Scottish, and what's their contribution to civilization? Well, actually, it's been pretty substantial, but it's been very, very short, and I don't define myself by that. What I do is, we've got all these cultures out there in the world, all of them, and I go out and try to acquire them. Like, what is it that I've been learning right now? A Kazakh, a language from, the other side of the world and stuff like that. It's all there for you. Maybe I'm appropriating. Oh my gosh, that sort of stuff. At any rate, all that stuff's available for you. And really, there are all sorts of people appropriating the English language. Probably more people speak English, different variety in India than in all the rest of the world combined. Do English people suffer by people appropriating their language? I mean, they've been independent, well, sort of like, since 1947, and sort of like free in India. maybe more free than people have been in France, if you look at it in sum total, since 1947. So, yeah. So she does jewelry, and she quits school in or when she's, presumably when she's 16. Is that what it is? In grade 9. And all of a sudden, but the way she's talking, like you knew she'd been to university, right? Yeah, because she'd picked up all the buzzwords.
Well, she said she had.
No. Before she said it.
Oh, okay.
Before she said it. Like, almost right away, I said, she's been in university. She's picked up these buzzwords. And they're the kind of buzzwords you hear in an outhouse. Bzz, 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 okay? And so she's talking about validation. She wasn't getting validation. You don't get validation by strutting around. My culture is better than yours, or just as good as yours. Hey, we live in what should be a multicultural society where everyone shares everyone else's cultures. But it's not that way. The concept of multiculturalism. Hey, I've got my culture, and you better stay away from it. You better not appropriate it. Yeah, with English, do we get hurt? Like we speak English. Hey, look at those guys in India. They're appropriating our English language. It's shameful. No, it's actually a strength when people appropriate your language. Can you get that straight? It's a strength. It helps keep it going. Especially with languages that are on the. I'll be getting to it. Another language I'm looking at right now is. It's kind of like Ottawa. I cannot pronounce what they call the language. I'll eventually get to the point where I'll be able to do it. But it's kind of like an Ojibwe dialect. And am I appropriating that? Well, like I've been told that my granddad on my mom's side made Bannock, and he came from Sarnia. Well, my bet says he's Ottawa. Okay, along with other things mixed in. Powhatan, I've been told, and I would guess it would, like in Golden, BC, it would probably be an explorer there, ancestor there who had a common law marriage with an indigenous woman, and what would that be? I guess it'd be shoe swap or something like that. So yeah, I'm learning that, and I'm reading. It's a big 1,100-page book plus 1,100, not rounding up, rounding down.
But yeah, this loser who was making jewelry.
Yeah.
Which is, jewelry.
It's for rich people.
How important is that?
She was.
Honestly, it's pretty.
Well, it's about as trivial as it gets.
Yeah.
It's been triviality for rich people.
She's making jewelry.
Yeah.
And she's talking about how what she sees in her product is like empowerment and this and
revolution.
That.
She actually used that term.
Yeah, and the host is like, and beauty. And she's like, well, I don't actually see that right away. She's saying,
Yeah, the host is chucking that, and beauty.
Yep.
The host was going, and wow, wow. I don't play CBC host doing interviews to be feeding people lines and going, wow,
Yeah, it's just jewelry.
It's just jewelry. There's no message in jewelry.
So I can't even see it. So what's the point? Why do you have this on the radio? It's jewelry. I can't see it. Unless it was jewelry that made sounds and you're like tinkle tinkle. Oh yeah, that's whatever. But it shouldn't even be on the radio. This shouldn't be a show on the radio. It doesn't make sense that it's there. And this woman's a total loser who makes jewelry. And you're promoting her product on the radio. Why? Why does she get airtime with public dollars? And she's talking about empowerment and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, so are you giving your jewelry away to African Canadians so that they can feel empowered? Or what's the thing? Like you're talking about this. Oh, I want. So you're selling jewelry to rich people to make them feel empowered? Like what is this? Right? It doesn't even make sense. She's really got to work on her sales pitch a little bit better if she's going to say, oh yeah, this is what this is for.
She's sold herself at universities with that by
With their
using
skin color. That's
I know,
all.
but well, you can really get on the wrong side if someone like Ian Hersey Ali,
Yeah.
you know, and they're going around saying she's an Islamophobe. Hey, you know, like she had her genitals mutilated by that religion. But one internet source is incredible. Faux gauche. Shouldn't have to say that, but they're saying, what does she know about Islam? And they'd already. Yeah, she came from Somalia. Belonged to the Muslim Brotherhood. Had spent time in Saudi Arabia. Had spent time in Holland. She'd had a marriage arranged where the guy came from one of the most ignorant countries in the world, Canada. There should be no one allowed to get involved in an arranged marriage in Canada or outside of Canada. So this is when she was in Somalia. It shouldn't be allowed. I mean, people like that should be in jail. So she's seen it in at least 4 different countries, lived it. What does she know? A whole lot more than that stupid faux gauche. Wow. Shameful. So the color just doesn't do it. But it's the prime thing. But what she's got to do is jibber and jabber right. the shibboleths. And, you know, invalidation, validation, revolution, what was all empowerment, that sort of stuff. Malcolm X. She even said Malcolm.
You have to know all the university marketing words for.
She's on a first name basis with Malcolm X, although he's been dead since '65.
Well, she was talking about how Malcolm X was like, what did she say? Tribal or no, it wasn't that. It was
pagan.
Pagan.
She wasn't saying that.
Whoa.
She was saying I'm
Maybe she
reviving this pagan stuff.
Crack a book, you stupid library idiot. The next time she's there, rather
than converted to Islam. They're against all sorts of images that are pagan. What are you talking about, you stupid? She talked too much.
Yeah, she needs to read more, talk less. Wow.
There was a guy called Velikovsky. I can recall reading some of the background stuff by him. In the 70s, he was laughing about people like Malcolm X in a serious kind of way. I laugh about it. Malcolm X, he died in 65, I believe it was. Sometime, let's say around 64, he converts, maybe 63, from black Muslims to Islam. And he makes a big visit. You know, it's almost like a state visit. He's visiting all the flunkies in Saudi Arabia. But it's not just Saudis. He met the former Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. The Grand Mufti of Jerusalem spent much of World War II in Germany telling Hitler, hey, you know, don't stop in Egypt. You know, like you're in Libya right now, and you're in Egypt. He got into Egypt. He got close to Alexandria. The German armies under Rommel. Keep going and make sure you, he would have been saying exterminate the Jews, it would have been understood, but kick them out at least of the Holy Land. Now, he was like this with Hitler during World War II. And there's Malcolm X, less than 20 years later, getting all lovey-dovey with this former Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. And it gets worse than that. Velikovsky said, hey, why are they turning to Islam? This would include Muhammad Ali,